Welcome to our 10-minute daily Mashiach thought number 206. Le'ilu Nishmas Kutubas Paret and Le'ilu Nishmas Tamar Shifra Bas Gershon. So we've been talking about how the Rebbe started stressing very much at the very beginning of Tafshinun Beis, the concepts of the fact that right now we need to, our Avaida for now is Kabbalas Pnei Mashiach Tzidkenu, that we have to accept and greet Mashiach, accept the Nesias, accept the leadership of our Melech, follow his directives, gather people around him, publicize it. We find that this concept of receiving Mashiach, accepting him as Mashiach, Rebbe was quite explicit about this toward the end of Chodesh Sivan, Chodesh Cheshvan, the end of the month of Cheshvan of Tafshinun Beis. We know that Rosh Chodesh Kislev is always when there's a Kinnis HaShluchim, the gathering of all the Shluchim in New York. So that year, Tafshinun Beis, at the end of Chodesh Cheshvan, there was this Kinnis, and the theme of the Kinnis that year, Kinnis HaShluchim, was Kol Yimei Chayecha L'Havi Limais Mashiach. Kol Yimei Chayecha L'Havi Limais Mashiach. All the days of your life to bring Mashiach. That was the theme. So, of course, the sichas of that time, the Rebbe was discussing this theme of the Kinnis. And the Rebbe was explaining it on a much deeper level. And this whole idea that your entire day, you have to do everything to bring Mashiach, of course, is the general lesson, the general directive for us as Jewish people, that everything that we do, all the avodah of a Jew at all times is Kol Yimei Chayecha. What is it? It is the avodah of making this world a place ready to greet Mashiach. That was the purpose of creation from the very, very beginning. But then the Rebbe goes on that in general, this is the avodah of Jews throughout the ages. And the Rebbe says something very interesting, though, in the sichas then around that Kinnis HaShluchim. So Rebbe said, well, yes, Kol Yimei Chayecha L'Havi Limais Mashiach, that's a general avodah for all generations. The Rebbe says, Mizman L'Zman Metusav Chidush B'Avodas HaShlichos. From time to time, there is a new avodah in terms of our shlichos. And then the Rebbe continued and said, what is the new thing? So just like we know that from time to time, the Rebbe introduced new mitzvahim, and there was a Nesha campaigns, and there was a Ton campaigns, and throughout a number of years, the Rebbe kept introducing more and more of the mitzvahim. So the Rebbe started off by saying, from time to time, there's something new that comes up in terms of the chiddush in the avodah of shlichus of what we need to do in the world. And what is the chiddush? The Rebbe said, chiddush, and these are the Rebbe's words, what is specifically the new avodah of our shlichus, specifically now in this latest time, is Kabbalas Pnei Mashiach Tzidkenu, the fact that we have to greet Mashiach. So what do we mean by that, greet Mashiach? So in Parshat Vayera, Tafshinun Beis, at that time, the Rebbe said very, very specifically that when you have the Metzius already of Mashiach here, so we know, like we've said numerous times in our Mashiach thoughts, that every single generation there is a person from Beis David who is worthy of being Mashiach, whether he's worthy because of his righteousness and to be the one. But when the right time comes, Hashem will reveal himself to him, and Hashem will send him and tell him that he has to bring the actual Geulah. And if it wasn't things that are not desirable happening at the time, then Mashiach would have come, and this happens throughout the generations. But the Rebbe continued that we know that based on what the Rebbe told us, and of course the Rebbe referring to the previous Rebbe, Mashiach by generation had told us already, and we know our Rebbe told us the same, that everything has been finished already. We've completed all our avodah, and we are ready to greet Mashiach. That's the last thing. So that means the Rebbe says that all the other avodah that we have, all the things that could block us and stop Mashiach from coming, it's all been removed. And that means if we already have Mashiach, is already here, ready to come. He already knows that he's Mashiach. So it's not like the times we talked about earlier with David and Melech or Shaul, that there was a period of time that they didn't know they were Mashiach. Then they got the message from Hashem that they were going to be Mashiach. And then there was a period of time they had to wait until it was the right time to come and start doing something. All that has passed, the Rebbe said. And we have the Metzius of Mashiach already, and he's in the world. And we have that revelation. Now, all that is needed is for us to accept it. And similar things in the next week, in the next Sikha, the next Shabbos, which was actually during the actual Kinnis HaShluchim itself, the Rebbe mentioned it again and talked about the fact in those specifically that the avodah of our time, the key avodah that we have to do is greeting Mashiach. And again, it was the same kind of thing. Rebbe referring very explicitly that when we have a Mashiach already in the generation, when everything's already finished, and it's like Moshe Rabbeinu, who was told, he was there, he was born. Hashem then said to him, "You have to go. You have to take the Jewish people out." And then came the time. Hashem said, "Right, now is the time. Now is the time you have to actually do it." So too, the Rebbe said, the only thing that's left for us to do is to accept Mashiach. That's it. So that he can, by accepting him, rallying around him, connecting ourselves to him, we are allowing him then to fulfill his shlichus and doing what he needs to do, which is to take us out of galus. So these concepts, this revelation of Mashiach and the idea of the shlichus of Mashiach that were mentioned in those particular sichas, we've already explained in our earlier Mashiach thoughts. This is the idea that Mashiach is found always amongst us. There's Mashiach in every single generation, just waiting for the time when he can accept the shlichus and fulfill the final task, which is to redeem us. And then the koyach of Mashiach that's always there within us will be revealed, and he will be revealed as Melech Mashiach. And that's why the Rebbe says Mashiach Tzidkenu was already sent. It was already revealed. It's just the koyach of redeeming us that hasn't yet happened. And therefore, we can understand when the Rebbe says, Kabbal's Pnei Mashiach Tzidkenu, this is the last avodah we can do, that now is the right time, the Rebbe is saying, that we should receive, right? We greet Mashiach so that he can, greet the Mashiach that was revealed, that was already sent. So this means the Kavanah isn't for Mashiach and a spiritual concept, that we have to accept the concept of Mashiach, but that we have to accept a man of flesh and blood who we can point our finger to and say, this person who is in our generation, who has all the character traits that the Rambam said is fitting for Mashiach, who is here, who's just like we've had in every single generation, and he's now revealed to us, he is the one we have to accept, to take it upon ourselves, this Kabbalah's Pnei Mashiach. And when you look at those sichas and you learn them in depth, you see how the Rebbe was connecting this idea of accepting Mashiach with the pasuk that we mentioned last night, Bikshu as Hashem Elkeim as David Malcolm, that Bnei Yisrael in the time, as we come close to the final Geula, they will seek out Hashem and they will seek out David. And we said, as we've mentioned before, that there's a straight connection between these two things, because the idea of seeking out somebody shows a person. This is a time at the end of Galus when the Jewish people will surround the malchus of Mashiach. In other words, they will connect themselves to this person, and they will ask him their questions because he will rule over them. They will follow his directives. That's the meaning of Kabbalah's Pnei Mashiach, that we accept him as our leader. And according to this, the sichas about Kabbalah's Pnei Mashiach, of accepting Mashiach, also is directly, it seems, a direct continuation of the sicha of Parshas Nayach, where we talked about Kiddush Levana that we mentioned yesterday. That when we take the general idea of Kiddush Levana, of sanctifying the moon, that we talked about there, that's something that was in all generations, right? This wish and this desire for Mashiach. But it becomes into something very specific and very practical for our times. And as we mentioned before, we can see this as this general approach. We can see this as part of this general approach of the Rebbe at all times. At the end of Galus, we have to have this avodah that's like a taste of the Geula. Act and behave in a way as if the Geula is already here, and that's what actually brings the Geula. So too, we talked about one of the main inyanim of Geula is going to be this revelation of Melech HaMashiach and this connection of all the Jewish people to Melech HaMashiach. And therefore, as a preparation for that time, it's our job right now to behave in that way as well, to behave at the end of Galus with that complete dedication and connection to the Rebbe, to our Nasi, to Melech Mashiach of our generation. And this is a taste of the Geula. This is the proper way to connect ourselves to Mashiach and prepare ourselves for the final Geula. And we have to see that immediately.